Some of you are starting Module 4 this week, so I wanted to run over it real quick here. These are the guiding questions that I used when I chose the text for this module, and if I had been doing a final exam, these would be guiding the essay questions and things like that. So the first assignment is a reading and understanding poetry. So there are 5 poems to read here. Make sure you note that there are 5. 4 of them are in this handout, and one of them is this link right here, Casualty. Okay. I don't really need to see this part here, marking them up. When I'm in class and doing this, I like to use closed reading and annotating, so scratching all my answers on the page as I'm reading poetry in order to show my understanding. These are the questions that I will be marking right here, and you need to answer them for each poem. What is it about? Which is a paraphrase or a summary. This needs to be about 3 to 5 sentences likely. What do you notice? And this is about the structure and the language. So I clarified here 5 to 10 examples of different crafts and techniques. So you have to provide quotes, phrases, or lines, or maybe couplets, or you make a reference to stanza number 3 in this poem is about this. And you say that this is an example of simile or metaphor or repetition. It has this kind of rhyme scheme. It's broken up into rhyming couplets. It's a free verse poem. This is where you have to use the language of poetry. So if you need to review the poetry terms, go back to the assignment in Module 1, I think it was, with the poems, My Provinces Between Two Furious Oceans, I Am Canadian. There was a whole bunch of poetry notes there, so go back to those if you don't understand poetic elements. And the third question to answer is, what does it mean? And this is the theme. Theme cannot be answered in one word or one sentence. Again, looking for about 2 to 3 sentences here. Okay. The second assignment is your own poetry analysis presentation. So you're going to create a Google slide presentation as if you were presenting it to the class, but you're not presenting it to the class. You're presenting it to me. Okay. So you pick a poem and you're going to connect the poetry with some visuals. A Canadian poem that connects to the landscapes theme. Create a PowerPoint presentation, or you could do Prezi, or if you know something else. The presentation part, you will have to do a Zoom with me and share your presentation, and then you're talking as you're sharing it with me, or you can do a voiceover to Google Slides, and I had a link with those instructions on the page. Okay, and then you just run through all of this. Here are some sample poems, but you're not limited to these. If you can find your own, and there's lots out there, lots. And if you want to ask me for some kind of modern poem, I've got a great book called Borders, and there's a whole section of modern Canadian poetry in there that is absolutely wonderful, and sometimes a little weird. These are 3 short pieces now. After these 2 longer ones, you got 3 short pieces. The language study is how to read a cartoon. So it's a really quick one. Afterwards, answer 2, 3, 5, and 7 on the last page of the handout. Very simple. Part 2 is you have to find your own cartoon from a newspaper, magazine, or the web and create a written or oral presentation in which you analyze the cartoon according to the instructions that the author talked about in the previous assignment. So these are some of the things that you can analyze. And basically, you're marked on if you can do this independently identify some of those cartooning techniques that he talked about in his article, and draw some plausible interpretations. So this isn't a very formal assignment. The hardest part that people have had is actually just finding the cartoon themselves. So Google editorial cartoon, and you can pick a newspaper if you want, Star Phoenix, Toronto Sun, National Post. Make sure it's Canadian. And the last one is just a short story. It's called No Coconut Trees in Toronto. Another glance into the urban side of Canada, as well as it has some immigration aspects to it and multiculturalism. Answer questions 1 to 5 at the end of the story. And that's Module 4.